Anterograde amnesia is the failure to recall or identify new information. People suffering from this disorder cannot form new memories, but contrary to popular belief, they can learn and practice new skills. However, they won't remember learning or practicing these new skills even minutes afterward.
Retrograde amnesia is the failure to remember or recognize past information or events that occurred before the injury or cause of the amnesia. Studies have shown that retrograde amnesia is seen in varying levels of severity and can be quite different from patient to patient. As in anterograde amnesia, it is interesting to note that people suffering from retrograde amnesia can also remember how to do things. These things, like driving a car and other everyday tasks, are preserved in what is called procedural memory.
Head injuries may result in anterograde and retrograde amnesia due to injury to the hippocampus, which is a region that is important for memory in the brain. Some unfortunate people suffer from both anterograde and retrograde amnesia, usually with varying degrees of recollection. While memories leading up to and after the incident tend to be lost, childhood memories are usually intact.
I have this condition.
A condition?
It's my memory.
Amnesia?
No. It's different from that. Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades. If we talk for too long, I'll forget how we started. Next time I see you, I'm not going to remember this conversation.
What's the last thing that you do remember?
My wife.
That's sweet.
Dying.
In Christopher Nolan's Memento, the lead character Leonard is one of those unfortunate people who suffers from both anterograde and retrograde amnesia. After an injury resulting from an altercation at which time his wife was murdered, Leonard is unable to form new memories and cannot recall some of his past. Leonard does vaguely recall details of his wife's murder and then takes it upon himself to seek revenge and find her killer. This is made all the more difficult because Leonard cannot remember anything for more than a few minutes. When he sees someone, he cannot recall who that person is.
Lenny!
I guess I've already told you about my condition.
Oh, well, only every time I see you.
You don't remember where you've been or what you've just done.
No, I can't make new memories. It's like waking. It's like you just woke up.
Leonard begins keeping notes and tattooing pertinent information onto his body, which helps him to remember some information and identify who he can trust. While Leonard is eventually able to find some peace with his wife's murder, we never know whether he actually finds the murderer or not.
Memento has been critically acclaimed as being a fairly accurate portrayal of anterograde and retrograde amnesia. The devastating effects of these conditions were depicted very well, and the movie did not make light of the difficulties that those with this disorder face. Leonard's ability to only recall select memories from his past is congruent with many research findings, including a study about the relation between anterograde amnesia and factual or semantic memory deficits. For example, Leonard is able to remember several happy occasions he shared with his wife in the same amount of detail one without this disorder would recall. As is the case with many anterograde amnesia sufferers, Leonard's procedural memory is appropriately intact and allows him to bring his notes with him even when he can't recall their importance.
One of the biggest weaknesses of this film is that Leonard repeatedly claims to not have amnesia because he can recall his own identity. However, amnesia refers to the memory of events and people as opposed to self-identity. One can have amnesia and be perfectly able to remember who they are. Another inaccuracy is Leonard's blind acceptance of the information he leaves himself in his notes, as some amnesia patients show strong signs of distrust towards their own written information and even become angry when confronted with it. The film also incorrectly describes Leonard's memory problems as a loss of short-term memory in which he only remembers information for a few minutes, but in reality his short-term memory was working just fine. His inability to form new memories is a result of damage to his long-term memory rather than his short-term memory. In actuality, short-term memory is shorter than you would think. It can only hold information for 20 to 30 seconds. So Leonard's real problem here is the transference of the information from short-term memory into a long-term memory. As in any type of action movie, Leonard is always able to locate his car when needed, but as a sufferer of anterograde amnesia, this would be impossible. Leonard's memory would only allow him to remember the location of his car for the 20 to 30 seconds permitted to him by his short-term memory. After this time, because of his amnesia, Leonard would be unable to transfer this information to long-term memory and would consequently forget the location of his car.
Overall, Memento is a fairly accurate depiction of anterograde and retrograde amnesia, as far as Hollywood standards go anyways. There are some flaws and lack of information compared to psychological findings, but the film does show a somewhat truthful yet simplistic version of the disorder. In the way it was written, Memento creates both an entertaining film and provides a basic understanding of what it is like to live with amnesia.
Recent studies have shown a strong relationship between anterograde and retrograde amnesia. The area of damage identified in these studies is the medial temporal lobe. These studies have shown that when anterograde amnesia is severe, retrograde amnesia is usually worse as well. Retrograde amnesia is generally only measurable when anterograde amnesia is fairly severe. When the relationship between anterograde and retrograde amnesia differs from this, other areas of damage are suspected.